Andy bought a house. He stood on his porch, staring proudly at his property, his American dream. What he didn't realize yet, this dream was about to run him ragged for 20 straight years. Joe? He just lay on the couch, tapped his phone once, and leaned back. No stress, no plan, seemingly no clue. But this guy ends up almost matching him, doing basically nothing. 20 years later, same start, same money, same job, yet one of them ends up $195,000 ahead. And the way he got there will probably surprise you. Let's make this totally fair. Andy and Joe, both 32, both in the same mid-size American city. Two completely normal guys just like you and me with the exact same life on paper. Same job, same paycheck, $3,500 a month after taxes. And both had saved up the exact same amount, $50,000 in the bank. Same start, same shot, zero difference so far. Same city, same account, same 50 grand. At this point, these two are basically financial twins. Then came the one question that would decide everything. A simple question millions of Americans face. What the heck do you do with that 50,000? Andy buys a house. Joe buys an index fund. 2 roads, 1 decision. Sounds boring? Trust me. Just wait and see how this plays out. Andy finds his absolute dream home. 3 bedrooms, nice neighborhood, everything perfect. The price makes him gulp. $400,000. But hey, it's an investment, right? His $50,000 goes in as the down payment, around 12%. Andy signs the papers and feels like an absolute boss. Finally, a homeowner. Finally, somebody who made it. Then comes the bill almost nobody plans for, the closing costs. And in America, those can really sting on top of everything else. Hold on tight. Loan fees, title insurance, appraisal, escrow, attorney. Together, around $12,000. Due right at the closing table. Money that vanishes before he even moves in. $12,000 for nothing. Not a brick, not a square foot, not a single piece of furniture. Just fees going straight into other people's pockets. Wave bye-bye to that cash. The rest he borrows from the bank. A $350,000 mortgage, 6.3%, 30 years. His payment from now on, $2,166 every single month. He finds a tenant paying $2,800 a month. Andy pays $2,166 to the bank. So on paper, he's actually cash flow positive. Andy's feeling pretty smart right now, and Andy grins. He owns something real now, something he can touch, something solid. Not a slip of paper, not an app, an actual piece of America. And that feels really, really good. He drives past in his car and thinks, that right there belongs to me. That feeling is worth gold to him. And that exact feeling is about to cost him 20 years of his life. Because the word mine feels amazing, no question. But feelings don't pay the bills. And the calculator? It doesn't care one bit about Andy's pride. Numbers are numbers. Joe does the whole thing completely differently, totally low-key. He opens a brokerage app and dumps his $50,000 into an S&P 500 index fund. Done. That's basically it. Then he sets up an automatic plan, $300 a month, every first of the month. He never has to think about it again. The system runs itself. And then, Joe does absolutely nothing else. No tweaking, no daily checking, no stress. Doing nothing is literally the entire plan. Sounds too simple, but that's the whole point. At work, a coworker asks, "You got anything going in real estate?" Joe just says, "Nah, just an index fund." The coworker nods politely and quickly changes the subject. Nobody's impressed. Nobody wants to see photos. Nobody asks twice. Joe is basically the most boring guy in the room. But this boring guy has one giant secret plan. Andy's got a juicy story for every happy hour. Joe gets 1 notification a month. Super exciting, right? And yet, boring Joe is about to keep right up with him. This unremarkable, boring guy is going to shock everyone at the end. And the best part, Joe barely has to lift a finger to get there. Pure, glorious doing nothing. The first 2 years run smooth as butter for Andy. Rent shows up on time, the value climbs, everything's golden. Andy feels like a financial genius. And honestly, who could blame him? He even writes off taxes cleverly. The mortgage interest plus depreciation every year. Those are real tax perks that Joe simply does not get. Point for Andy. The house even climbs in value. From $400,000 to around $450,000. Andy's over the moon, already sees himself as the next real estate mogul. What could go wrong? And Joe? He glances at the app every few months, that's it. Year 1, $58,000. Year 3, already $76,000. Growing quietly, but growing. Sounds like a lot, but to Joe, it feels like absolutely nothing. No house, no keys, no cool photo for the profile, just a plain number sitting on a screen. But that's exactly Joe's secret weapon. The number doesn't care how it feels. No praise, no dopamine, no validation. It just keeps growing, stubbornly, day after day. Andy, meanwhile, is now at the kitchen table every night doing the books. Hour after hour that nobody pays him for. Slowly but surely, it's gnawing at his nerves. What started as an awesome investment suddenly feels like a second job, except without a paycheck, without an end of shift, without vacation. Welcome to being a landlord, Andy. Joe's second job simply doesn't exist. His money works around the clock for him while he does nothing at all. That right there is the whole difference. And still, Andy is dead certain, I'm clearly winning. He sees his house, he sees the value. Tiny spoiler, though. This time, he's not wrong. Keep watching. Now comes the part no real estate influencer on Instagram ever shows you. The real ugly costs that nobody has on their radar. Buckle up. Year 1, first shock, water damage, $2,400 gone just like that, out of absolutely nowhere. That's how fast it goes. When you're a landlord. Year 2, next hit, the HVAC dies. $4,500 for a new one. It was 15 years old, sure, only Andy hadn't set aside a single dollar for it. Then his tenant moves out. The place sits empty for 6 full weeks. 6 weeks without a dollar of rent. But the fat mortgage? That keeps running. Ice cold. Plus renovation, fresh paint, a deep clean, another $2,000 on top. Andy's bank account is starting to feel like a bottomless pit. Ouch. And then property tax and insurance, the ones everyone forgets. Around $4,400 a year, plus another $2,500. That's almost $7,000 a year, just to hold it. Let's add it up, honestly. Across all the costs, some years Andy is deep in the red. Some years he drops $5,000–6,000 out of his own pocket. Ouch. His only comfort, the home's value keeps climbing. Fine. But his account still bleeds in the rough years. Paper value isn't the same as cash in hand. And Joe? He's at $76,000 after 3 years. No handyman, no stress, no phone call at 10 at night about a broken heater. Just calm, quiet, growth. Joe's money basically pulls over time while he sleeps. And that's not a cheesy line. That's literally exactly what happens in the market. Every single day. Now comes the risk that catches almost every new landlord off guard. And this one can get really, really nasty for guys like Andy. Pay attention, a bad tenant can wreck your numbers faster than anything else. And depending on your state, getting them out isn't always quick or cheap. Welcome to the landlord lottery. Imagine a tenant just stops paying. It happens, no matter how carefully you screen. And the eviction process, the lawyers, the court dates, can drag on for months. Months with not a single dollar of rent. But guess what cheerfully keeps running the whole time? Right, the mortgage. It does not care about your problems. That adds up to $15,000, even $20,000 in losses fast. And all of that for one single bad tenant. One case, one disaster. And Andy's whole math gets shaky. Andy knew all of this in theory beforehand. It was right there in the guidebook, on paper. But knowing it and feeling it in your own account are two totally different worlds. because nobody really plans for how it feels when everything blows up at once. Vacancy, repair, and drama all in one shot. That's when real estate shows its true face. Real quick before the big finale, if you want honest numbers with zero BS, drop a subscribe right now. Costs you nothing, helps the channel a ton. Now, back to it. Let's jump to year 7. Andy's house is now worth around $520,000, and his equity sits at roughly $210,000. Okay, sounds like a real plan. Sounds great, right? But here's the catch in the rough years. His cash flow can land near zero. Andy's been hustling for 7 years. And some months he ends up with nothing. Joe, at the same time, is sitting at $121,000. The market gifted him around $46,000 of that, totally free. No phone calls, no handyman, no nothing. On to year 10. Andy now has around $297,000 in equity. But for that, he sacrificed 10 years of weekends, nerves, and free time. Brutal trade, and here's where it gets wild. Joe's money now makes money. That then makes more money. It's called compounding. And right from here, his curve shoots steeply upward. Every single year now, Joe's portfolio grows more than the year before. And all of it on its own, without him adding a single extra dollar. That's the real magic. Andy's wealth climbs too, even faster. But he's pushing a boulder uphill the whole way. Joe just chills in a hammock, while his money does the heavy lifting. So one guy grinds himself into the ground, the other just relaxes. Both build real wealth, but in completely, wildly different ways. Keep that in mind. Year 20, the big final reckoning. Time to lay all the cards on the table? Heads up, because this is where it gets really wild. Hold on tight, there's a twist. Andy's house is now worth a jaw-dropping $870,000, the mortgage mostly paid down, and his equity stands at a massive $680,000. Insane. Sounds like a clear win for Andy, right? Hold on. Wait just a second. Before we celebrate, we've got to run this honestly. And there's a real catch hiding in here. Subtract 20 years of costs, repairs, vacancies, property tax, insurance, all that junk. What actually remains is roughly $618,000. Still huge, though. Now to Joe. 8% average, $300 a month, 20 years straight, no flinching. His portfolio ends up at $423,000. Boom. Joe only put in $122,000. The entire rest, over $300,000, is pure compounding, just gifted to him for patiently doing nothing. Wild, right? And all of that with not one phone call. No handyman, no court, no vacancy, no drama. While Andy battled for 20 years, Joe's money did just one thing: grow. Here's the final score, black on white. Andy ends up about $195,000 ahead of Joe. But here's the kicker. He worked 20 brutal years for that lead. And here's the real twist on top. If Joe had saved $500 a month instead of $3, he'd be sitting at over $500,000. Same salary, way less stress. Real estate won here for one reason: leverage on a market that exploded upward. But that's also a gamble. If prices had stalled, Andy's whole edge would have vanished. In the end, Andy has more money on paper, but Joe has nearly as much, plus 20 years of his life back. And that, my friend, is a huge, massive difference. So let's be totally fair. Real estate is clearly powerful. In the right situations, it absolutely crushes it. And Andy is living proof of that. For real. The key word is leverage. Joe moved $50,000 with his $50,000. Andy controlled a $400,000 asset with the same $50,000. That's enormous power. Live in part of it yourself, rent out the rest, and your own housing costs drop near zero. While you build equity. That's a trick no index fund on earth can offer. And inflation? It quietly eats away at your mortgage over the years. You pay it back with dollars worth less and less. Sounds sneaky, but as the borrower, it's amazing for you. And if you live there, you can sell with up to $250,000 in gains completely tax-free. Those are legal perks an index fund just doesn't hand you so easily. But, and this is a huge but, all of this only works if you treat your property like a real business, with hard numbers and discipline, not as a cute little hobby on the side. And that was Andy's real price. He won, sure, but he treated it like a second full-time job for 20 years. The money came, but the time and the stress? Gone forever. Today, Andy and Joe sit over coffee laughing about it. Andy says, "I'd do it again, but I'd run the numbers smarter." Joe grins, "And I'd have saved more, way earlier." The real lesson here isn't a lazy real estate good, index funds bad. The world is never that black and white. Both paths can work, if you go in with your eyes open. The real lesson is, most people decide without ever running the numbers once. They just blindly do whatever mom and dad did back in the day, and hope it works out. Andy ends up with a valuable asset, Joe with a fat portfolio. Honestly, both of them won, in their own way. There's no villain and no hero in this story. The real losers are completely different people, the ones who hesitate forever, waiting for the perfect moment to start. Spoiler, that moment does not exist. Those folks are still waiting today. And honestly, they'll keep waiting forever. While Andy and Joe built real wealth, they're still sitting at exactly zero. Tragic. Oh, and one important thing, this is not financial advice, just math to think about. Always do your own homework in the end, and make your own decisions. Deal? If these honest breakdowns actually help you out, then subscribe and drop a like. Next video, we tear apart the next big money myth. See you then.